Hello, and welcome to the AIM podcast, where we interview the leaders of the AIDC industry. AIM is the global alliance for stakeholders of RFID, barcoding, smart devices, and other automatic identification and data capture technologies, and supporting blockchain, IoT, and RTLS applications. We represent all industries and organizations that use, implement, resell, or develop technology. We are essential to enabling adoption, growth, and interoperability to those who depend on accurate, available, and identifiable data. With that being said, I am here with the Vice President and General Manager of Identification Solutions at Avery Dennison, Jolie Vargas. Welcome to the podcast, Jolie.
Thanks, Bethany. It's great to be here.
All right, so I want to start off by letting you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yes, I'm Julie Vargas. So I have the privilege of leading identification solutions at Avery Dennison. I know we'll talk about that. But about me, I've been in the RFID industry for about 15 years across various new adoption cycles in different segments. Before that, I did some work in retail as well as financial services. My fun fact and one party trick is that I speak 4 languages. And I have 2 beautiful girls. I live here with my husband and my daughters in San Antonio. And yeah, I love to travel, and I'm really happy to be here today.
Great. And first of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your recent promotion. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Vice President and General Manager of Identification Solutions for Avery Dennison does?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the privilege of leading a global team. Now we're working not just in kind of the core business of adding information to products through print solutions across the supply chain for food and logistics, as well as pricing solutions in retail. We're also working on the adoption of new AIDC technologies, specifically RFID, where we see the sensor technology having a unique capability of connecting the information we have printed in an analog way for decades into digital capability that really provides automation and drives accuracy across the supply chain for food and logistics. I have manufacturing teams, operations teams, supply chain. I also have the privilege of leading the front end teams that are driving service as well as development of new solutions.
And what does the Identification Solutions division encompass?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, as I mentioned, for food, logistics, and retail, I think one of the things that would help understand what we do is we were the original, we're still in the original headquarters for Monarch marking. So, we initially started with the labeler, click and stick, dial the price or the expiry date. And put them on products, which was big automation at the time. We still do that. On top of that, though, we've moved into variable data print solutions for food and logistics. We do in-store price remarking. A lot of that really comes from our roots in material science and being able to put information on products and parcels around the globe. But now we're taking that to the next level is what does a true solution set look like as last mile fulfillment's moving faster, as the food supply chain has increasing complexity. Our teams are really partnering deep in the industry to understand how we can use AIDC across the printers that either we produce or partner to deliver, along with what is the digital connection, and continue to drive advancement in material science, not just in what it does, but how we can maintain our roots in sustainability and really driving from being a consumable thing that has to happen to put information on a product to being an enabler for a more sustainable future in those industries as well.
Great. And how did your past experiences prepare you for this current role?
Great question. I mentioned I've been in RFID for about 15 years. So I think the biggest part of my past experiences that prepared me is really around the passion. I've been in the early adopter phase for some of these technologies in retail apparel, and the mission is bigger than producing a really great print solution or finding a way to put information on products. I see the opportunity to fundamentally help partner with the industries that we serve to drive advancing, kind of how we as people both experience products, but also are able to really optimize our time. So everything from supply chain efficiency and reduction of waste. Those are personal missions that I've kind of built over my time in my career. In addition to that, I would say that as the technology has developed, if you go back 15 years, RFID technology, where sensors were what we used as our, I still had a flip phone. So what we had in our daily lives, technology looked totally different. I've been had the privilege of really being part of that evolution, and a lot of that's prepared me for this role in particular to think about how all of our teams can enable uh, at the speed of technology advancement, real true AIDC automation and accuracy.
So you've talked a little bit about like the history of RFID and the industry. Where do you see the industry going in the future?
It's a great question, and it's interesting because even thinking back 15 years, we're right now in the future that we didn't even know, would be the way it is today, and it seems to be accelerating even faster. I think that there is a piece of what we do, a large portion of what we do is about supply chain and waste reduction for businesses. I think in the future, as consumers, we'll also be both interested in how our products get to us and where they're from, but also how we quote unquote manage them in our daily lives. So thinking about this technology not just as one that businesses use for enterprise operations, but one that might help me, clean out my child's closet when she's outgrown her clothes, or help me learn know what I have in the fridge and learn a new recipe for dinner. So I do believe that that is the future we're headed towards. To do that, of course, there will continue to be advancement of moving from, printed information. We'll still need that, but what that actually does in a digital world and a digital experience, I think will go further and further into our homes, and not just be for businesses.
So you've been with Avery Dennison for more than 10 years. What makes Avery Dennison a good fit for you, and how has Avery Dennison evolved in your time there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think that one of the most incredible things about Avery Dennison are the people. So we have these great solutions and these big ideas, and they don't all come to fruition. But the ability to work with some of the smartest people, really dedicated to a mission of how can we help drive business results for our customers, but simultaneously evolve industries with the capabilities that we have around not just creating one sensor, but scale manufacturing billions of sensors. How do we use our and leverage our knowledge in the technology to move it forward? And so we have incredible products and great services, but fundamentally, it's our people that really make us who we are. And that culture of consistently learning and pushing boundaries while simultaneously having a discipline and a rigor around creating new sustainable and cost-effective solutions for our industries has really been something that's been motivating. And we continue to evolve. So I think we always think about what we're going to do next. And so that consistent curiosity around how we improve and serve our clients and our industries, that's really motivating to me. And it's been a great fit across I'm actually on I think my 12th role here, different segments, different sectors, and all of it just has this core motivation of how do we make sure that the products in our lives, where we're putting other people's brands and information through our products, really become something that transforms not just industries, but consumer experiences as well.
That's great. And as we're coming to the end of 2024, I just wanted to ask, what are your top three priorities for 2025?
Yeah, great question. This will help me with my New Year's resolutions. No, but priorities there's some continue. So we have a real mission around supply chain efficiency, labor efficiency. So how do we push the boundaries on driving new adoption where the technology makes sense for automation and accuracy to really drive that efficiency? The second one, though, is probably my biggest mission, which is around waste reduction, transparency, sustainability. How do we continue to operationalize across billions of products the ability to really not just improve our carbon footprint by reduction of materials or optimization of materials, but by leveraging this information to drive, a better connection between production and consumption in some of these industries. I think for for food waste in particular, I'm pretty passionate. A lot of the perishable food that's wasted is happening before you or I see it on our plate. And so we have a real opportunity to reduce that. So food adoption and technology is a big priority. Operationalizing sustainability and really helping to move that forward for the industry in a way that's an easy, cost-effective lift is a priority. And the last priority is to continue to understand how we can transform these things in a way that is seamless and an easy lift as well. So when we talk about solutions, everyone talks solutioning, but to me, that's not just about the components coming together, but how do you make the change management not so much of a transition, but something that's really, as a user, easy to understand. And a big portion of our priorities are focused on scale deployment for technology that we know will have an impact on the industries we serve.
Great. And what is the most valuable advice you've received?
I've received a lot of advice over the years. I think I always go back. I had one of the most amazing women ever, and I'm biased, but I also think many people will think this was my grandma, and she had a lot of really good nuggets of advice. But they all boil down to one big theme, which is to stay curious. So um, there's a piece of learned experience, there's a piece of education, but curiosity is also about what is happening around you, what are people's lived experiences like, and how do you make sure that you never kind of go to sleep on a win to wake up on a loss. How do you continue to evolve and grow, not just in your knowledge set, but in how you think about putting the human first into everything that you do, because no matter how good you are, no matter how much you know, there's always an opportunity to learn more and be better.
That's really good. I love that. So, as a woman who is a leader in the AIDC space, what advice would you give to other women currently in this industry?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, have a mission. So I think the big piece is know why we do what we do and why it matters to you. And the you is probably the biggest piece. Be you. It's very navigating sometimes when there isn't a balance or true kind of a clear path or a clear way of doing things that may be like you or look like you. Never compromise who you are. Show up with your authentic self, and I think it's hard because sometimes it's easier to conform to how we've always done things or what leadership looks like or what presence looks like. But the real progress is made when you show up as you are, and show everyone that there's more than one way to lead, more than one way to do things. And I think the power of the women that I have met in the AIDC industry is incredibly motivational and inspirational. And I would never want anyone to compromise who they are in delivering that, because we would miss a part of how powerful it really is.
That's great. So, continuing with the topic of women in AIDC, what can the industry do to attract more women?
Mm. Yeah, I think I was thinking about this one in general. I do think that there's a connection between um, the technology and the purpose for technology. I've seen some of the most brilliant women in AIDC, but if you think about how they are there now or how they've landed there, there's less of this actual, let's say, proactive search for some of the brightest minds to really help us evolve industries. I think for AIDC, we love the technology, and no one geeks out more about bits and bytes than I do. I get very, very excited. But I do think from a pipeline and recruiting new participants, there is this opportunity to tell the story about why it's not just automating identification, and driving automation, but what does that do? What does that mean for us as a society or as industries? And I think that will attract a lot of talent, and by nature, even more female talent into the industry.
That's great. Um, so, I wanted to move on to what do you see as the greatest challenges and greatest opportunities um, for the AIDC industry on a global basis?
Hmm. I think the biggest challenge is the one that I mentioned before. I have watched places where the technology has an incredible business case. It is the absolute best solution, and it's really moving from an analog moment of a process that's centered around people into something that can be automated to drive information and higher pace. That being said, making the change or thinking about changing is easy. Driving that transition of data sets and processes and how we actually move things through supply chain and in retail is hard. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is not the advancement of the technology, but the comprehension of what that means to people and how we can really drive an easier transition phase. So it's not, I think about, my mom was probably gonna, if she listens to this, hi mom. I think about Facebook in early days and how my mom kind of processed through, do I wanna join this? What is this about? And it's interesting because now she's probably the most avid user, but there was a moment of you have to accept and understand what has to be true for people to see the value in it. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges for AIDC right now is how we get a movement and a groundswell, either through the ease of use or through the ease of transition into the technologies.
And then the last question I have for you today, from your perspective, what do you see as the next big thing or the big trend in the AIDC industry?
Good one. Well, yeah, and I think I missed the opportunities one on AIDC too, because that is, I also think on the opportunity side, I keep talking about waste, but if you think about globalization and everything that we have seen in some of the supply chain challenges and what's happening in the acceleration of the semiconductor industry, there are so many trends, there are so many components. The biggest opportunity for AIDC industry is really around the ability to drive reduce waste and drive a more sustainable future. So much of, and it's not just an economic opportunity. I mean, sorry, it's not just environmental; it's economic as well. A lot of money is wasted in the middle of the P&L for food or products that we put on the shelf that aren't necessarily needed or flow through into the consumer world. And so, how can AIDC make us more efficient and fundamentally reduce what goes into landfills is a huge opportunity and a mission. And when I think about that in the context of the next big thing, for all of that to be true, there's so much happening in machine learning and AI. We went through our phase of blockchain, which I still think distributed ledgers will have a place. A lot of these technologies are nascent, or they're nascent, but they're digitally native. So they're all about what you do with the information once it's in a system. And one of the most critical parts of that is that the data is accurate. So getting the information from the physical product, what is actually on it, what it actually is, where it is in the supply chain, where it's going next, that physical connection to the digital models that are out there. I think the value of data being accurate and automated means that we'll have more data, it will be more reliable, and we'll have fidelity in that data. Those two, to me, are the most critical trend for AIDC, because once you have that, these advanced computer models and everything that can come with it is going to help us really accelerate how we think about not just our business, but moving through our daily lives as well.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights. It was great to hear your perspective on the industry. Thank you so much for joining me, Julie.
I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Thanks, Bethany.
Thank you for listening to this AIM podcast. Again, AIM is the Global Industry Alliance for AIDC Technologies. We are essential to enabling adoption, growth, and interoperability to those that depend on accurate, available, and identifiable data. If you'd like to learn more about AIM and our initiatives, you can reach out to us at info@aimglobal.org, go to our website at www.aimglobal.org, or give us a call at 724-742-4470.